The day my daughter-in-law proved that cat was innocent, the truth on that camera shattered an entire family. Now, sweetheart, before we begin, let me set a gentle boundary. This tale includes mental illness, animal neglect, and harassment. If today isn't the day for heavy things, save this for later, make some tea, and come back when your heart feels steady. All right. Pull up a chair. I'm going to tell this the way my own grandmother told stories, slow enough to understand, honest enough to heal. And I'll ask you something as we go. When family demands forgiveness, who pays the price for it? Our storyteller is a woman I'll call Lena, late 20s, hardworking, the type who labels pantry jars and remembers birthdays. She'd been with her husband, Evan, since their early college days, 10 years together, the kind of long love that grows roots. They were planning their next chapter, but life did that thing it does, changed the route without asking. Evan needed extra time to finish school, and Lena didn't have a place lined up yet, so she moved into his rental. It wasn't just Evan in that house. Evan lived with his older brother, Cole, early 30s, loud laugh, quick opinions, the kind of man who always seems to be going through something. Cole had an elderly dog downstairs, and Lena brought her own male cat, Pepper, with permission. Everything sounded settled. So why did Lena start waking up with a sour, sharp smell crawling up the stairs? At first, it was faint, like somebody forgot a gym bag in a corner. Lena scrubbed, opened windows, lit candles. She washed sheets. She blamed the plumbing. She even blamed herself, the way polite women do. Then the smell got bolder. It moved around. One day it was in the bedroom. Another day it was in her shoes. Another day it was on a pillow. Let me pause and ask you, have you ever had a problem so strange you start doubting your own senses? Because Lena did. Pepper used the litter box like a little gentleman. Cole's dog couldn't handle stairs. Evan looked confused. Cole looked offended that anyone would even ask. And that is how gaslighting begins, sometimes, not with cruelty, just with everyone acting like you're dramatic. Weeks passed. Then months. The pattern stayed the same, it was always Lena's things. Not Evan's. Not Cole's. Hers. She stopped leaving clothes on the floor. Still, it happened. A scarf. A pair of flats. A tote bag she loved. Cole offered a theory with a straight face, male cats mark territory. Now, if you've lived with animals, you know animals have their own troubles. But you also know something else, pet mess and human mess do not smell the same. Lena wanted peace, not war. But peace without truth is just quiet suffering, isn't it? So she did the one thing that turns confusion into clarity. She set up a small camera in the bedroom, pointed toward the spot where the smell seemed to gather. She told Evan, because she wasn't trying to trap her husband, she was trying to protect her sanity. When she checked the footage, her stomach dropped so hard it felt like a stone. There was Cole. Walking into their room. Calm as can be. Looking around. And then, doing what no grown man should ever do in someone else's space. He urinated on her belongings, like it was a statement, like it was a ritual, like it was a punishment. And then he left. No apology. No shame. Just, gone. Sweetheart, I've raised children and I've buried elders, and I'm telling you, there are betrayals that don't just disgust you, they rearrange your nervous system. Lena didn't scream. She didn't throw a lamp. She went cold. She packed a bag, picked up Pepper, and left for a friend's place. Evan confronted Cole. We don't have every word, but we do know this, Evan believed his wife, because he saw the proof. For a while, Evan distanced himself from his brother. Family gatherings became a careful dance, smiles without warmth, hellos without closeness. And Lena learned a lesson that takes some people 50 years, Just because someone shares your last name doesn't mean they're safe. Time passed. Life continued. Then the world got quiet in that particular way it did during the pandemic. Jobs disappeared, apartments were lost, everyone got nervous. Cole's life fell apart. And guess where he wanted to land? He asked to move in with Lena and Evan. Not for a weekend. Not for a night. Move in. Lena said no. A simple word, but it carried 1,000 nights of scrubbing and disbelief. Cole's relatives began calling, texting, guilt-tripping. It was years ago. He needs family. You can't leave him without shelter. Let me ask you plainly, if a person violates you once, do you owe them access again? Lena's answer was still no, but she felt herself wobble. She loved Evan, and Evan loved his brother, complicated as that love was. Evan didn't push her at first. But he was torn, and you could feel it in the air like heat before a storm. And Lena, being kind, even wondered if she was holding a grudge instead of holding a boundary. Here's the thing, honey, a grudge is when you want someone to suffer. A boundary is when you refuse to suffer again. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're self-respect in plain clothes. Evan decided to look for solutions that didn't involve Cole sleeping under their roof. He contacted professional acquaintances, asked about openings in Cole's field. And that's when the first hidden thread got tugged, just lightly, and the whole sweater started unraveling. Evan learned Cole hadn't been fired the way he claimed. Cole had walked away. Quit. And the old job might still be there. So why was Cole presenting himself as a helpless victim? Evan drove to Cole's apartment to confront him. Cole wasn't home, but Evan had an emergency key from long ago. He went in to wait. Now, Evan is no fool. But even a smart man can be unprepared for the kind of horror that's quiet. He called Lena and told her, carefully, to stay where she was. He said he needed help from his brothers. He sounded shaken. Lena's mind raced. Was Cole violent? Was he armed? Was Evan in danger? A little later, one of Evan's sisters-in-law called Lena, crying. The family had seen Lena's account online. Somebody recognized it, because, as you can imagine, stories like this aren't common. Relatives started comparing notes. They realized the family had been operating on a watered-down version of events. Many believed Cole had apologized. He had not. Many believed it happened once or twice. It happened again and again. Then the next truth surfaced. Cole's therapy wasn't legitimate. He'd been telling their mother he was getting professional help, but it was a sham, some friendly confidant pretending to be a clinician. And their mother, in her desperate, image-protecting way, had covered for him. You see how sickness spreads through a family? One person acts, another hides it, and everybody learns to pretend. Evan finally told Lena what he found inside that apartment, and I want you to breathe before I say it. In a bathroom, Evan discovered photos, images of Lena, defaced with urine and other explicit bodily fluids. Worse, there were images of a teenage niece as well, used in the same disturbing manner. Not contact, not assault in the direct sense, but still a violation meant to humiliate and retaliate. It was obsession. It was rage. It was cruelty dressed up as secrecy. Ask yourself, how does a family recover from learning a relative has been privately acting out hatred like that? Because that wasn't even the worst part Evan found. Under the bed was Cole's cat, malnourished, frightened, soiled, neglected. Evan coaxed the poor thing out and rushed her to a veterinarian. And in that moment, Lena's anger shifted into something else, grief for an animal that had no vote in any of it. While Lena tried to decide whether to drive over, something happened that felt like a movie villain's flourish. A delivery arrived at Lena and Evan's door, flowers, with a note. The message wasn't sweet. It was a warning, blaming Lena for exposing family business and implying consequences. Lena pulled over on the side of the road and sobbed until her ribs ached. And do you know what's so terrifying about that moment? It's not only fear. It's the realization that your home address has become a target. Lena turned around and went to her parents' place. Evan met her there later, carrying Pepper, trying to be strong, failing. Sometimes marriage vows are tested not by temptation, but by catastrophe. The brothers gathered, several of them, the ones willing to face the mess. They went to Cole's apartment again. This time, Cole was there. There was yelling. Punches. Chaos. Someone ended up in the emergency room. And Cole ended up in a psychiatric unit for evaluation. Lena started therapy, because certain sounds, yes, even the sound of a bathroom, triggered panic. If you've never had trauma latch onto something ordinary, be grateful. If you have, then you understand why she felt staticky, as if the world turned distant. Now, here comes the part that breaks my heart. Cole's cat did not survive. The veterinarian found serious illness that had been ignored too long. The kindest choice was euthanasia, to stop suffering. Lena carried guilt like a heavy purse, even though she didn't cause the neglect. That's what tender people do, they accept blame that belongs to someone else. Evan cut contact with portions of his family. Lena obtained a protective order. They talked about moving, because the apartment they lived in now felt haunted by everything they'd learned. Some relatives apologized. Some minimized. Their mother, especially, was furious, not at Cole, but at the family unity being broken. Let me ask you, how can forgiveness exist when accountability refuses to show up? Lena chose distance. She changed her phone number. She stayed near the ocean for a while, working remotely when she could, staring at the water the way people do when they need their thoughts to slow down. Evan wrote a letter to Cole, refusing contact. Cole was transferred back across the country, where other relatives would manage his treatment. There were more revelations too, childhood cruelty among the brothers, years of bullying aimed at Cole when he was small and defenseless, locked doors, humiliation, intimidation, abandonment, pranks that were actually torture in cheap wrapping paper. It explained something, but it excused nothing. Lena tried to hold the complexity. A person can be harmed and still become harmful. Two truths can sit in the same room. But her body didn't care about complexity. Her body wanted safety. Months passed. Updates arrived in pieces, like mail you don't want to open. Evan asked for space. He was drowning in guilt, angry at his family, ashamed of what his brother became, sickened by what his brother did to Lena. They weren't divorced immediately, but they weren't building a future in the same direction either. Do you know what's hardest for good people? Accepting that love alone doesn't repair everything. Lena stayed with her parents. She lost work opportunities because trauma is expensive, time, focus, sleep, all gone. She brushed Pepper more than usual, because caring for something small and innocent felt like the only sane task left. Eventually, after a long stretch of trying, Evan asked Lena for a divorce. Not because he stopped caring. Not because he wanted someone else. But because he believed he had brought danger to her door, and he couldn't forgive himself. Lena begged him to reconsider. He cried. She cried. The paperwork went through anyway. Here's a question for you. When someone leaves, for your sake, is it protection, or is it escape? Therapy helped Lena see that Evan's choice had layers. Concern, yes, and also a desperate attempt to quiet his own conscience. Lena kept limited contact with one brother-in-law, Evan's brother who had been consistently decent through the crisis. He checked on her like a real sibling would. As for the mother-in-law, she showed up once, uninvited, and unleashed a stream of insults through the door, attacking Lena's worth, her marriage, even her fertility. Neighbors called authorities to remove her. After that, silence. Blessed silence. Cole remained far away, under care, with restrictions. Some brothers made sure he was flagged at local shelters to prevent future animal adoption. It wasn't justice, exactly, but it was prevention, and sometimes prevention is the only mercy left. Some doors close softly, others slam to save you. And Lena? She rebuilt like a person rebuilding after a house fire, slow, deliberate, choosing only what mattered. A new apartment with no memories in the walls. A job when she was ready. A bathroom fan or white noise app to blunt triggers. A life with Pepper curled beside her, purring like a little engine of steady love. Now, my dear listener, I've told you the bones of it, but the lesson is the marrow. Family can demand peace at any cost, yet the cost is almost always paid by the quietest person in the room. If you're watching this and you've been pressured to just move on, I want you to hear me clearly. You are not required to offer your home as proof of forgiveness. If Evan and Lena had one turning point, it was that camera, truth captured without debate. But the second turning point was even bigger. Lena finally believed her own discomfort. Discomfort is not always fear, sometimes it's wisdom arriving early. Before we end, I'd love to know what you think, because grown folks carry strong opinions about loyalty. Was Lena right to refuse housing Cole from the very beginning? And was Evan right, or wrong, to end the marriage out of guilt? If this story held your attention, please tap like and consider subscribing to Dust of Old Days. It helps this little storytelling porch light stay on for everyone who needs a place to sit and listen a while. And if you have your own hard-earned boundary story, share what you're comfortable sharing in the comments. Someone reading might feel less alone tonight. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, and lock the doors you need locked.